I'm Mark, 35M, and I've been married to my wife Betty, 35F, for 8 years. We have a 6-year-old son named Lucas who was diagnosed with autism when he was 3. The diagnosis was hard on all of us, but we adapted and learned how to provide Lucas with the best care possible. Betty reduced her work hours as a nurse to spend more time with Lucas, and I started working from home 3 days a week to help with his therapy sessions. My mill Janet, 65F, has been a constant source of stress since Lucas's diagnosis. At first, she refused to believe there was anything different about Lucas. She kept saying we were overreacting and that boys develop differently. When we finally got her to accept the diagnosis, she switched to blaming us. She claimed Lucas's autism was because Betty worked during her pregnancy or because we didn't spend enough time with him during his first year. The real pressure started when Lucas turned 2. Janet became obsessed with the idea that Lucas needed a sibling to help him develop better social skills. She would send us articles about how siblings can help autistic children learn social cues. Every family gathering turned into a lecture about how we were being selfish by not giving Lucas a brother or sister. What Janet doesn't understand is that we made a conscious decision to not have more children. Lucas needs a lot of attention and specialized care. His therapy sessions alone take up several hours each week. We want to focus all our resources and energy on giving him the best possible life. Having another child would mean dividing our attention, and we don't think that would be fair to either child. My sil Emma, 32F, has always been our biggest supporter. She's a high school special education teacher and has been invaluable in helping us understand Lucas's needs. Unlike Janet, Emma never questioned our decisions about Lucas's care or our choice to not have more children. She's been the best aunt to Lucas, always making time for him and learning how to communicate with him effectively. Emma's relationship with Janet has always been strained. Janet constantly criticized Emma for being single at 32 and focusing too much on her career. She would make snide comments about how Emma was wasting her life teaching other people's children instead of having her own. During last year's Christmas dinner, Janet actually suggested that Emma's dedication to her career was a sign of selfishness and immaturity. Last month, Emma dropped a bombshell on the family. She had been going through the adoption process for the past year and had finally adopted a 3-month-old baby girl named Lily. She did everything in secret because she didn't want to deal with Janet's negativity during the process. Emma had always wanted to be a mother, but she wanted to do it on her own terms. Janet's reaction was exactly why Emma kept the adoption secret. She showed up at Emma's house unannounced and started berating her about making such a huge decision without consulting the family. She said Emma was being irresponsible by trying to raise a child alone while working full-time. She even suggested that Emma only adopted Lily to prove a point about being independent. The situation escalated last week when Janet came to our house. She sat us down after dinner and said she had been thinking about how to fix Emma's mistake. Her solution was that Betty and I should adopt Lily from Emma. Her reasoning was that we already had experience raising a child, and this way Lucas would get the sibling he needed. She acted like she had come up with a perfect plan to solve everyone's problems. Betty was furious. She told Janet that she had no right to decide who should raise Lily or to question Emma's ability to be a mother. Janet wouldn't listen. She kept insisting that Emma wasn't ready for motherhood and that we would be doing her a favor by taking Lily. She said Emma was being selfish by depriving Lucas of a sibling when she knew we didn't want more children. Things got even worse after that conversation. Janet started calling Emma multiple times a day, alternating between guilt-tripping her about denying Lucas a sister and trying to convince her that giving Lily to us was the right thing to do. She would leave long voicemails about how single mothers struggle and how Lily deserved a complete family. Emma was stressed and upset when she told us that Janet had actually contacted the adoption agency. She somehow found out which agency Emma had worked with and called them asking for information about Lily's adoption. The agency contacted Emma to warn her about potential interference from family members and advised her to consider legal protection if the harassment continued. Not content with harassing Emma directly, Janet started spreading rumors in our extended family. She told everyone that Emma was struggling to cope with Lily and had begged her for help. She painted a picture of Emma as an overwhelmed single mother who was too proud to admit she had made a mistake. The truth is that Emma is doing amazing with Lily. She took 2 months of adoption leave to bond with her and has arranged her teaching schedule to be home early every day. The rumors worked exactly as Janet intended. Our aunts and cousins started calling Emma with concerned voices, offering to help her with Lily or to take the baby if she couldn't handle being a mother. Some even called Betty and me to ask if we were really planning to adopt Lily, saying Janet had told them we were excited about giving Lucas a sister. Betty and I have been doing everything we can to support Emma and shut down Janet's rumors. We've made it clear to everyone that we have no intention of adopting Lily and that Emma is perfectly capable of being a mother. We've also told Janet that her behavior is unacceptable and that she needs to stop interfering in Emma's life. Janet hasn't spoken to any of us since we confronted her about her behavior. She sent a group text saying we were all ganging up on her when she was just trying to help the family. The whole situation has created a huge rift in our family, with some relatives taking Janet's side and others supporting Emma. I never thought we'd be in this position, but Janet's obsession with controlling our family's decisions has gone too far. Emma didn't deserve to have her joy of becoming a mother tainted by all this drama. Betty is heartbroken that her own mother would try to manipulate us like this. I'm posting here because I need to know if we're handling this situation right. Should we be doing more to protect Emma and Lily from Janet's interference? Update 1. I need to update everyone on the situation with Janet and Emma because things have gotten so much worse than we imagined. What we discovered in the past few days has left us all shocked and disgusted. Emma called me yesterday crying hysterically. She had just found out that Janet's interference in her life went far deeper than any of us knew. Through a series of events, Emma discovered that Janet had been plotting against her adoption plans for months before Lily even came into our lives. It turns out that Janet has a friend, Susan, who works at the adoption agency Emma used. Susan was the one who told Janet about Emma's adoption application 6 months ago. Instead of keeping this information confidential as she was legally required to, Susan had been feeding Janet details about Emma's adoption process from the very beginning. This was a complete violation of Emma's privacy and the agency's confidentiality policies. What Janet did with this information makes my blood boil. She started a calculated campaign to sabotage Emma's chances of adopting. She sent multiple anonymous letters to the adoption agency claiming that Emma was mentally unstable and financially irresponsible. She wrote that Emma had a history of depression, completely false, and couldn't maintain stable relationships, also false. She even went as far as suggesting that Emma was only trying to adopt to spite her mother for criticizing her single lifestyle. The most disturbing part is what we found when Betty went to check on Janet at her house yesterday. Janet had converted her entire guest bedroom into a nursery for Lily. There was a brand new crib, changing table, rocking chair, and dozens of baby outfits. Everything was decorated in pink and purple, with a name sign saying Lily hanging above the crib. She had even bought duplicates of everything to set up in our house, all still in their original packaging and hidden in her garage. When Betty confronted her about the nursery, Janet broke down and showed her even more evidence of her obsession. She had opened a bank account 3 months ago in Lucas's name, labeling it Sister's Future Fund. She had already deposited $25,000 into it. She'd been telling her friends and church group that Betty and I were planning to adopt Emma's baby, and she had even planned a surprise baby shower for us. The depth of her deception became clearer when Emma went through her phone records. Janet had made over 50 calls to different family members in the past month alone, systematically spreading lies about Emma's capabilities as a mother. She told our Aunt Carol that Emma had called her crying every night, saying she couldn't handle Lily. She told our cousin Mike that she had caught Emma leaving Lily alone while she went shopping. None of this ever happened. Betty found a notebook in Janet's house filled with what can only be described as a manipulation playbook. She had written down different scenarios and strategies to convince Emma to give up Lily. One page detailed plans to report Emma anonymously to child services if she refused to give Lily to us. Another page listed ways to make Emma look incompetent at family gatherings by doing things like distracting her when Lily cried or criticizing her feeding and diapering techniques in front of everyone. When Emma confronted Janet about everything we discovered, Janet's reaction was both shocking and heartbreaking. Instead of showing remorse, she doubled down on her actions. She said she was trying to fix Emma's mistake before it was too late. She actually told Emma that she was being selfish by depriving Lucas of a sister when there was a perfect solution available. She said she had been saving that money to help us raise Lily properly, unlike Emma who would just dump the baby in daycare. Betty is completely devastated by her mother's actions. She can't comprehend how her own mother could be so manipulative and cruel. The woman who raised her to be honest and caring had been orchestrating this elaborate scheme to destroy her sister's chance at motherhood. Betty hasn't stopped crying since we discovered everything. Emma has already filed a formal complaint with the adoption agency about Susan's breach of confidentiality. The agency is taking it very seriously and has placed Susan on administrative leave pending an investigation. They've assured Emma that her adoption of Lily is completely secure and have offered to provide documentation of Janet's harassment attempts if Emma needs it for legal purposes. We've all decided to cut contact with Janet completely. There's no coming back from this level of betrayal and manipulation. Emma is considering getting a restraining order, especially after finding out about Janet's plans to call child services. She's also thinking about moving to a different city to get away from all this drama, which breaks my heart because Lucas adores his aunt and cousin. I'm posting this update because I still can't believe how quickly our family has fallen apart. Janet's obsession with controlling our lives has destroyed relationships that took decades to build. Emma is traumatized, Betty is heartbroken, and we're all left wondering if we ever really knew Janet at all. The hardest part is explaining to Lucas why he can't see his grandmother right now. He keeps asking when we're going to visit Grandma's house, and we don't know how to tell him that his grandmother did something unforgivable. We're trying to protect him from all this chaos while still maintaining his routine and stability. We're now working on setting up security cameras around our house and Emma's apartment. We don't think Janet would try anything drastic, but after discovering the extent of her plotting, we can't take any chances. The whole situation feels like a nightmare we can't wake up from. Update 2. I never expected to write this update, but what we discovered yesterday has changed everything. The situation with Janet took a turn that none of us saw coming, and now we're all struggling to process this new information. Last night, Betty got an urgent call from her father, Tom. He asked us to come over immediately, saying there was something we needed to know about Janet's behavior. When we arrived, we found Janet sitting in their living room, looking completely defeated. Tom then revealed what we'd all been missing, Janet has terminal pancreatic cancer. She was diagnosed 4 months ago, right around the time she discovered Emma's adoption plans through Susan. According to Tom, the doctors gave her about a year to live. She's already refused aggressive treatment, saying she doesn't want to spend her remaining time in hospitals. She kept this diagnosis secret from everyone except Tom, not even telling Betty or Emma. The timing of everything suddenly made horrible sense. Janet finally broke down and explained her twisted reasoning behind trying to manipulate Emma into giving up Lily. She said she couldn't bear the thought of her grandchildren being separated after she died. In her mind, if Lily grew up with Lucas, they would have each other for support when she was gone. She convinced herself that by getting us to adopt Lily, she would ensure both her grandchildren would grow up together as siblings. She also revealed that the money she had been saving wasn't just for Lily. She had actually sold all her jewelry and some family heirlooms to put together that sister's future fund. She wanted to leave something behind that would connect her grandchildren. The nursery she set up wasn't just about controlling the situation, it was her desperate attempt to create memories with a grandchild she knew she wouldn't see grow up. When Emma found out about Janet's diagnosis, she was overwhelmed with conflicting emotions. The manipulation and betrayal still hurt deeply, but now there was this added layer of understanding her desperation. Emma came over to Tom and Janet's house last night after we called her. The conversation that followed was intense and emotional. Janet tried to apologize, saying she let her fear of death cloud her judgment. She admitted that she became obsessed with the idea of fixing her family before she died. She thought if she could just get everyone to follow her plan, she could die knowing her family was exactly how she wanted it to be. She acknowledged that she had no right to interfere with Emma's life or try to manipulate us, regardless of her diagnosis. However, Emma wasn't ready to forgive and forget. While she expressed sympathy for Janet's situation, she made it clear that having terminal cancer didn't excuse trying to destroy her chance at motherhood. Emma reminded Janet about the anonymous letters to the adoption agency, the lies she spread in the family, and her plans to call child services. She said these weren't the actions of someone who just wanted to help, they were calculated attempts to control everyone's lives. Betty has been struggling to reconcile her anger at her mother's actions with the knowledge that she'll lose her soon. She's angry that Janet kept her diagnosis secret while simultaneously trying to orchestrate major changes in all our lives. She feels robbed of the chance to process her mother's illness properly because now it's all tangled up with the adoption drama. The most surreal part is that some family members are now pressuring us to forgive Janet because of her condition. They're saying we should put aside our feelings about what she did and focus on making her remaining time peaceful. But Emma is firm in her decision to maintain distance from Janet despite her condition. She says she'll always be grateful that Lucas has a relationship with his grandmother, but she needs to protect Lily from Janet's controlling behavior, terminal diagnosis or not. Tom is caught in the middle of everything. He tries to explain that Janet's fear of death made her act irrationally, but he also understands why we can't just pretend nothing happened. He's asking us to consider allowing Janet limited contact with Lucas and Lily, supervised visits only, saying it would give her some peace in her final months. We're all trying to navigate this impossible situation. How do you balance protecting your boundaries with showing compassion for someone who's dying? Janet's actions were inexcusable, but knowing the fear and desperation behind them makes everything more complicated. For now, we're taking things day by day, trying to figure out what level of contact, if any, is safe and healthy for everyone involved. Update 3. It's been a difficult few months, but I wanted to give everyone a final update on our situation. A lot has changed since my last post, and we've all had to make some hard decisions. Janet started therapy shortly after her diagnosis became known to everyone. Her therapist helped her understand how her fear of death led her to try controlling everyone's lives. She's written lengthy apology letters to both Emma and Betty, acknowledging the pain she caused and expressing genuine remorse for her actions. The letters weren't excuses for her behavior, just honest reflections on how she let her fear take over. Emma made a life-changing decision last month. She accepted a position as head of special education at a private school in Colorado. The job comes with better pay and more responsibilities, but we all know the real reason she's moving. She needs distance from all this family drama. She told us about her decision during a family dinner at our house, and while it was hard to hear, we completely understand. The school offered her a house on campus, which sealed her decision. She'll have a support system there, with other teachers living nearby who can help with Lily when needed. The idea of living in a community where no one knows about all this drama appealed to her immediately. She's already found a great daycare for Lily near the school. Betty and I fully support Emma's decision to move. We've promised to visit them regularly and have already planned our first trip for Christmas. We've also set up weekly video calls so Lucas can maintain his relationship with Lily. He's sad about his aunt and cousin moving away, but we're trying to make it exciting for him by talking about all the fun things we'll do when we visit Colorado. Janet's reaction to Emma's news was predictably emotional. She broke down crying, saying she never meant to drive Emma away. Tom had to remind her that this was a consequence of her actions, not just Emma being cruel. Janet's health has declined significantly in the past month, and her doctors say she likely has less time than they initially thought. The hardest part of all this has been managing Janet's limited time with Lucas. We've arranged for supervised visits twice a month at Tom's house. These visits are strictly controlled, no discussions about Emma or Lily, no guilt tripping, and Tom must be present at all times. It's not ideal, but it's the best compromise we could manage given the circumstances. Emma has made it clear that she doesn't want Janet to have any contact with Lily. She agreed to send photos occasionally through Tom, but that's it. She says she needs to protect Lily from forming any attachment to Janet, given the limited time Janet has left. It's harsh, but after everything that happened, no one can blame her. Betty struggles with this situation daily. She started seeing a grief counselor to help her process everything, not just her mother's declining health, but also the loss of the relationship she thought they had. The counselor is helping her understand that it's possible to mourn someone while still being angry at them. As for me, I'm focused on supporting my wife and maintaining our family's boundaries. The whole experience has taught us that sometimes there are no perfect solutions. Sometimes you have to make tough choices to protect your peace, even when those choices hurt. This will be my last update on this situation. Emma moves next month, and we're all trying to focus on moving forward. Janet's actions changed our family forever, but maybe that change wasn't entirely bad. Emma is starting a new chapter in her life, Betty is learning to prioritize her own well-being, and we're all getting better at setting and maintaining healthy boundaries. Thank you to everyone who has followed our story and offered advice along the way. Your support helped us navigate through some really dark times.